Looks like Les has a response to that one, please.
Thank you. In the comprehensive water system plan, when we looked at the fire flow aspects of the system, there were a number of projects regarding fire flow and fire flow deficiencies. Well number 10 was one of those with respect to a requirement of DEQ that you look at the capacity of the system with the largest producing source offline. So that'd be well number 9. So well number 10 addresses that issue by creating a redundant supply. Okay, so in effect, our largest source stays online because if 9 fails, you run number 10. The second project was the Northwest Reservoir, and it has to do with equalizing and fire flow storage within the reservoir. The amount of storage that's required is dependent upon the amount of production that comes out of the wells. And when Gary said there was a bit of an issue in what was in the comp plan, he was referring to the fact that the analysis of the reservoir considered well number 9 being offline, out of service, which then increased the storage requirements in the system, which then meant that Northwest Reservoir needed to be larger than it is today. By building well number 10, we don't lose that capacity, which then brought down that storage requirement. So purely from a fire flow perspective, Northwest Reservoir does not need to be constructed as a larger facility today. And I'll come back to Northwest in a minute. The third piece was the booster stations, because the study and the modeling identified deficiencies in fire flow capacity existing today in all 6 of the high pressure zones that are served by those 6 booster stations. And so the plan identified within the CIP, you need to replace all of 6 of these booster stations plus a little additional piping in the Indian Hills area in order to meet that fire flow requirement as set by the fire code, the fire marshal, and required under state statutes as a municipal provider. So all 3 of those projects were initially identified as fire flow related needs. Northwest Reservoir, because of that issue about redundancy of well 10, well 9, lost some of its argument, if you will, for fire flow and immediate need associated with the fire flow requirement of the state statutes and the fire code. Okay. Northwest Reservoir is still required in our capital plan because of operational issues. It's undersized. We're working with a reservoir that's almost 100 years old that has high maintenance costs that are only going to continue to escalate. We're estimating that we're going to spend probably in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000 to keep it online for the next 10 years. And so that's not a good return when it comes to long-range maintenance and operation of a facility. So Northwest Reservoir is still in the capital plan, but not necessarily driven by the fire requirement of the other 2 projects, well 10 and the boosters. So because of that, it's not as strong an argument in a judicial confirmation ordinary necessary expense. So what we'll do, the way we're working it now, is Northwest Reservoir would be funded through city funds, capital project funds that we've accumulated, and then well 10 and the boosters, because of their immediacy and the mandates under the state statutes and the fire codes, would be handled through judicial confirmation and the debt service that goes with it.
Okay. So it sounds like we're pretty dependent on being able to pump during an emergency situation. You know, we're relying on if 9's out, then 10's still able to be. We're able to draw from that.
That is correct.
So energy, we need to have online electricity to be able to produce that water. Generators. So my question is, do we have backup generators that are ready? Do we have the ability to generate power to pump that water?
Some of the systems do have backup power, such as the Southeast Reservoir, which is a boosted system. It has backup power on site. We're in the process right now of bringing backup power to well number 9 from the wastewater treatment plant. That's being studied. Earlier this year, the City Council approved a contract with, I think it's AEI, to design the backup power for well number 8.
Oh, that was 8? Okay.
So, and for the fire station, 2 different contracts this year.
Okay.
But the first one's for well number 8, and so that's in process as well. So that'll address 8 and 9. We're still looking at 6. 3 and 4 have backup power now. So really, 6 would be the one that's left and to yet address. So yes, we're heading that way under separate projects to bring backup power to all those facilities for those types of reasons.
Okay, thanks.
If I may.
But, just a question, Gary, is that then part of ordinary and necessary threshold, the backup generators for this fire flow requirement?
With respect to perhaps well number 10,
Sure.
the assessment we're doing on well 9 is also looking at well 10. Could we provide power to both of those facilities from the generator at the wastewater treatment plant? It has the capacity. It's just a question of how we get it there. So that is being considered as part of that package. On the booster stations, there's again a separate funding line item in our program right now to provide backup power and actually, backup power to the booster stations. And so that's also ongoing at the same time. We'll be working on that and packaging as much as we can as we go.
I just wondered if it should be packaged with any of this request for judicial confirmation in this case.
I did consider that. The dollar amount is not huge, so I thought based on what we'd accumulated to date, we could probably continue to fund that out of our current capital program.
Gary?
Yeah, and that's part of the, when doing a judicial confirmation, one of the things that you want to do is to not throw the kitchen sink in there, because judges tend to look at it and say, look, if your system is that broken, then, you know, they want to give it scrutiny, but they want to make sure that you're doing a good job with the funds that you have as well. And again, recall that there is an accumulation of funding in the water fund. We aren't currently carrying any outstanding debt in the water system, but we have a lot of capital needs. And as you recall from the comp plan, there's a lot of them out there. The situation with the Northwest tank, some of the conclusions that were made in the comprehensive plan is causing Les and his staff to get back with the engineers and review because of that situation, that we don't believe that it meets the threshold of ordinary necessary, to review that and see where exactly it fits within that capital plan. But some of those accumulated funds, as the mayor indicated, provided for backup power and some of those necessary things are planned to be paid for with those pay-as-you-go funds. If you recall from the rate study that was recently passed as well, there is a debt service component to that. It was always contemplated that there was going to be debt incurred, whether it was voted on in a bond election or whether it was something that was judicially confirmed. So essentially, we believe, and our attorney believes, that we have taken about the largest, most critical components, the ones most easily defensible and therefore determined to be ordinary and necessary, by looking at well 10 on the capacity side and on the provision of pressure, if you will, or volume of the booster stations.
Okay, thank you. Tim, I saw your hand up. Didn't I?
Yes. You perhaps have already answered it. I was concerned when Gary started his initial presentation which council was going to be listening to the public hearing.
And you just heard that. Yeah, and the thing that I was mentioning was that I want those people to have the same kind of background you do. Art's obviously here tonight,
Exactly.
but to know some of the background so that they can be present at the public hearing with, listening for the right kind of information to consider. Sue?
This is just a quick question for Les. It doesn't have anything to do with the bond, but this backup power for number 9 coming from the wastewater treatment plant, is that going to be immune from lightning strikes? Or are we going to be in the same situation we were last time?
This is not a rhetorical question, right?
No, it's
No.
a serious question.
Yeah.
Is it going to run separately, or is it going to run through the signal, or what? I mean,
Well, it's just like anything. Nothing is immune from a lightning strike, unfortunately. So any system has some potential risk there, but the likelihood is pretty low.
it's not going to run through the same light.
Well, that was
I
the
mean,
pump motor.
The signal,
that blew
yeah,
up.
I know, but the power, it was, okay. So in other words, no, you haven't got any different
I don't think
plan
we
of-
have an issue there. So.
If I may make one more
Please.
point. What we're asking for the council tonight, if the council decides that they wish us to go ahead and set the public hearing, that the resolution that you have in your packets under section 1, that date now reads December 16th, 2013. That should read January 6th, 2014 at 7:00 p.m.
Okay.
Walter?
Thank you, ma'am. Before coming down to council tonight, I opened a piece of mail that informed me that my property taxes in Moscow are going up 30% this next year. I'll go talk to a few people and make sure I understand how they got there, but
School district.
I found it shocking, to say the least. I'm just glad I'm not in the house I was in a year ago, because that would have been real money. You know, discussion of judicial confirmation depends upon which side of this dais you are sitting, because when the judicial confirmation item for the wastewater treatment plant was brought up in 1998, remarkably, I happened to be at the council meeting. I don't think I was there for that purpose, but I do remember speaking to the council at that time and calling for a vote of the citizens as opposed to doing it by judicial confirmation. Fast forward 15 years, I'm on the other side of the dais, and I will vote to move this forward, but not without that comment and the fact that, you know, this is money the citizens are going to have to pay back through their water rates. A question for Don, and you may not have it because I didn't give you a heads up. Do you know what amount per month the 4.3 million translates to on our average homeowner?
You need to come up
And if not, would you please have that ready for the public hearing?
Yeah, well, I'll have it then, I don't have it now.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, could you just translate?
Yeah. Don just indicated he doesn't have that at the tip of his tongue, but he'll have it ready for the public hearing.
Yeah, I think we ought to point that out.
It would be spread out over 20 years.
Don's just indicating it would be spread out over the life of the debt, which is probably going to be 20 years.
However, I would feel very happy to pay it for my fire flow.
Well, you know, interestingly, just to respond to Sue,
Yeah.
my belief is that you live in a part of town that has adequate fire flow. My present house and my former house both did not.
Sounds like a
So,
personal problem
It
to me.
is, that along with my property tax problem.
Well, that's the
At
school
any rate,
district, Alan.
I will support this, but do realize that you know, we're doing it without a direct citizen vote. I believe that it is ordinary and necessary, that we're under the gun to get a backup well. I think well 9 going down last summer was a blessing in
And the summer
disguise,
before.
in that it showed how we really do need a backup for our largest well. I was the one that raised the questions about the Northwest Reservoir, and in answer to Tom's question, they show that we have surplus capacity of water storage all the way out through 2030 with our current tanks without another new tank, but I'll wait to see what they have on operating.
Prepared to put a motion forward, Walter?
I am, Mayor.
Please.
With all of that said, I would recommend that we do accept staff's recommendation for a public hearing to consider filing of a petition for judicial confirmation for well number 10 and booster station upgrade projects, and to hold that on January 6, 2014.
And adopt the resolution? You move to adopt the resolution?
And adopt the resolution making it happen.
I'll
Okay,
second that.
And you phrased it as recommend. Could you just put the word "I move" or make a motion to the effect, please, just so we get
Yes, ma'am.
dot all the yes. Okay. Tom,
Stephanie
is that-
just
is that your
corrected you.
agreement? Okay. So we have Walter's motion and Tom's second. Any discussion before voting? And Gary, did we cover everything you
Yes,
needed to
ma'am,
hear?
thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? And hearing none, we'll start with Dan.
Aye.
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 That motion carries, and that'll be resolution number what? 2013-15. 2013-15. Okay, good.